Introduction of point machine. The point machine performs moving, locking and detection of switches in single unit by converting rotary motion into linear motion. The advanced point machines work with electrical energy of 110 volt DC and working current of 2.5 amperes. The point machines have the facility of a hand crank arrangement to operate the points manually and a friction clutch arrangement to protect the points from overloading or obstruction. The important difference between the earlier point machines and present day point machines is that the earlier types of point machines have separate point operation, detection and locking arrangement of point machine. The electrical point machines are divided into two categories. These are separate type point machine and combined type point machine. Point machine are operated by power. The locking of points is achieved by mechanical arrangement by facing point lock externally. The detection of point is achieved by electrical detector. Separate type point machines are obsolete now. Type point machine. The combined type point machine operates points by power. In a combined type point machine, locking and detection of points is within the point machine. Depending upon the movement of the lock, the point machine is further classified into four types. These are in and out type, straight through type, rotary type, clamp lock type. The in and out type is one where the locking plunger moves in one direction for unlocking and again in the opposite direction for locking during any one operation of the machine, namely from normal to reverse or vice versa. Through type. A straight through movement is one where the locking plunger moves straight through and does not change its direction of movement for unlocking and locking during any one operation of the machine, namely from normal to reverse or vice versa. Type. In a rotary type, the locking segment rotates in clockwise or anti-clockwise for unlocking of the points and anti-clockwise or clockwise for locking the points for normal to reverse and vice versa. Lock type. In and out type, straight through type and rotary type of locking, the stock rail is not detected. Hence, clamp lock type is introduced where switch rail and stock rail is held and detected to ensure that there is no gap between stock rail and switch rail. Main features in IRS rotary type point machine. The IRS electric point machine is a high thrust and rotary type having two lock slides and two detection slides for independent locking and detection of switches. It has a thrust of 700 kg and can operate all types of turnouts. It works on 110 volts DC. IRS rotary type point machine meets IRS S24 standards. Rotary type point machine consists of the following parts: housing, transmission assembly, contact assembly, electric motor, reduction gearbox, point throw slide, point lock slides, point detector slides, crank handle cutout switch, crank handle. Views: top view, isometric view 1, isometric view 2. Move the mouse over point machine and click the part for more information. Housing. The housing encloses the point machine and is made of cast iron base with a lockable sheet metal cover fitted with rubber gasket for weatherproofing. The base also provides mounting for point machine assembly. The following parts: drive disc, segmental lock pawl, pinion, main gear rim, lift out disc, control disc. The main gear rim and friction clutch assembly drives the drive disc. The drive disc is moved by the clutch spring locking plate left hand and right hand, which transmit rotary motion to the main shaft. It has two stud pins for holding the locking member that help to lock the control rim with the drive disc. The transmission assembly is mounted inside the main cast iron body with bush bearings at its ends. Thus, the shaft gets its rotary motion from the main gear rim. Locks the point switch lock slide and point throw slide. The segmental lock pawl is normally engaged in the circular lock notches of the point throw rod and switch lock slides. The pinion has 6 teeth which are allowed to engage the rack of throw rod, having 5 teeth in the middle, during operation after unlocking, for transmitting a linear stroke of 143 mm to throw the point. The main gear rim has 92 teeth and is directly meshed to the motor pinion, having 12 teeth. It gets the rotary motion from the motor and is restricted to 270 degrees. The gear rim transmits the rotary motion to its center shaft through spring-loaded friction clutch, which in turn imparts a maximum of 143 mm linear motion to the throw rod. The lift-out disc is placed between gear rim and control rim and used to actuate the detection and control contacts. It is having a smooth cam 158 mm at its periphery, in which the detection contact actuating pin roller A is allowed to drop when the point is fully locked in normal or reverse position. Similarly, the roller A is pushed upwards once the lift-out disc starts its motion for unlocking of the point. The motion of the main gear rim is first transmitted only to this disc. The control disc is used to lock the detector and control contact actuating the pin roller A in its home. For this purpose, a small cam arrangement is provided in its periphery for 120 mm and the moving roller A is allowed to drop into this cam at the end of the rotary motion. The design of the cam is such that it cannot actuate the roller upwards, but it locks the roller and gives more reliability to the detection contacts. Control disc gets its movement from driving disc pins through locking member to control disc pins. Inside the main gears of the following parts: slip ring, compression spring assembly. The compression spring assembly is inserted in the slip ring. The complete assembly is fitted inside the main gear rim and held in position by means of left hand and right hand spring locking plates. The spring load on the top slip ring can be increased or decreased by tightening or loosening the adjustable bolt provided in its assembly, and this increases or decreases the frictional load on the main gear rim. Since it is pre-adjusted by the manufacturer, there is no need to adjust at site. Motor. The electric motor converts electrical energy into mechanical energy and operates points from normal to reverse and reverse to normal directions. Specifications of electric motor. Specifications of electrical motor are: rated voltage should be 110 volts DC, capable of working at plus minus 25% of rated voltage, RPM of 1700 plus minus 15%, rated currents 5.3 amperes and maximum 8.5 ampere, operating time of 4 to 5 seconds, power is 440 watts or HP of 0.59, gear oil used is SAE 30 and rating 10 minutes. Reduction gearbox. The reduction gear ratio is 20.8:1. The machine is provided with 3-stage reduction gear. The reduction gear box houses 2-stage reduction gears housed with sealed motor and immersed in lubricating oil. In the third stage of reduction, the pinion engages with the main gear rim. Point throw slide. The throw slide has a hole at its end and a rack in the middle in which the pinion engages after unlocking and gets a maximum stroke of 143 mm for driving the point switch rails from normal to reverse and vice versa. Further, it has two lock notches for locking the throw rod at the end of the point operation. Sides are independent for each switch and moves along with the switch rails, that is 115 mm in broad gauge and 100 mm in meter gauge. These slides have one short and one wide notch, and because of the wide notch, these slides are common for both broad gauge and meter gauge. Point detection slides are used for closing and opening the detection and control contacts. Point detector slides have one short and one long notch. The long notch facilitates the slides to use both in meter gauge and broad gauge switches. Brass strips are also provided in between them to prevent joint movement due to rust or friction. At one end of the slide, a threaded rod is riveted and welded, in which ground connection rod is connected by using a lug for easy adjustment of the notches to the requirements. The idle movement of the slide is limited to 3 mm and 53 mm in short and long notch when the roller B inside the detection contact assembly drops in the notches. Out switch. This is mounted on the motor at commutator side. It cuts off the power supply to the motor before insertion of crank handle for manual operation of machine. It makes the flap to give an opening for insertion of crank handle. To manually operate the point in case of failure or when power supply is not available, a crank handle has been provided. The procedure for hand cranking the machine is as given below. With the help of cover key, make an opening for insertion of crank handle key into the voltage cutoff switch. Insertion and operation of crank handle key cuts off electric feed to the point motor and makes an opening for insertion of crank handle. Now, with the help of crank handle, motor shaft can be directly moved, setting the point to any side. For power operation, crank handle is removed and steps 2 and 1 are followed in reverse sequence. Detection and control contacts. Two sets of heavy-duty self-wiping contacts are provided for electrically detecting the normal and reverse position of the point and to control motor feed. The entire assembly along with its mechanism is named as switch and contact pedestal. The control contacts are named as normal control contacts and reverse control contacts. The normal control contact opens only when the point is set and locked in normal position. Similarly, the reverse control contact opens only when the point is set and locked in reverse position. For detecting the point switches in normal or in reverse position, two sets of contacts are provided. The respective contacts will be allowed to make only if the point is fully set and locked in the respective position and not otherwise. The entire mechanism is named as Detection and Control Contact Pedestal and arranged in such a way that only one set of contact is allowed to make at a time provided the transmission assembly rotation is completed and both detection slides have completed its predetermined linear motion 100 millimeters in meter gauge and 115 millimeters in broad gauge. All these contacts are actuated only by the lift-out disc at the beginning of the operation and held in position by the control disc, which is usually roller B falling in detection slide notches at the end of the operation. The IRS point machine operates a point from normal to reverse and reverse to normal position. In this topic, you will learn about working of point machines electrically and with crank handle. Prerequisites for point operation. A point is operated by a point machine under the following conditions: when the point zone track is not occupied, when no signal is given leading over a point, when the crank handle is not inserted in the point machine, and when operation is authorized. Initial condition for point operation. To operate a point with a point machine from normal to reverse, the initial conditions are: point in normal position, reverse control contact is made, normal detection contact should be made, normal lock detection controller is in the notch on control disc. Sequence of point operations. The point operation from normal to reverse follows the below sequences: opening of detection contacts, unlocking of points, operation of points, locking of points, closing of detection contacts. Detection contacts are made when the roller is in notches of both control disc as well as lift out disc. Motor rotation starts. Main gear rim along with friction clutch gets its movement, which causes friction clutch spring locking plate to engage with lift out disc. The movement of the lift out disc lifts the roller A even though control disc notch does not move as yet. This causes the opening of detection contacts. Motor rotation continues further after operating of detection contacts. Locking segment starts to move out of locking notches. Normal detection notch of control disc will now be shifted from its normal position and roller A will rest on both lift out disc as well as control disc periphery. Roller B moves out of the normal notch because the detection slide locking segment is out of locking notches. Rack pinion engages with throw bar rack. Point moves from normal to reverse. Tongue rail flushes with the stock rail for reverse setting of the point. Throw complete. Moves into the reverse locking notch. Point detection slides are now in reverse position. Roller A falls into the notch in control disk and roller B into the detection slide notches for reverse setting. Reverse detection contacts made. Reverse control contacts break. During unlocking, both normal control contacts NC and reverse control contacts RC are made to facilitate mid-stroke operation.